Hello, it's Sandra Brown. Today I'm going to talk to you about a transition that happened in my life. I'll talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, how I was able to overcome this situation, and how it helped me professionally. In 2006, I took a job with the North Carolina Department of Revenue as a processing assistant. I was familiar with the job when I first came in because I had worked in customer service prior to accepting this position. I was hired as a temp at the time, and about 3 months later, we were hired permanently, which was a good thing for me. My son and my daughter had health benefits, and I did not, so it helped me a lot that they made us permanent. After about 3 months, I was approached by the manager of my division. She asked me if I would come on as the newsletter editor for our division, and I accepted. She also asked me if I would work with one of the diversity groups in the Raleigh office and also work with one of the groups that helped test the tax forms that came out every year. I agreed, and it was a really good time for me. I had only been there 3 months, and everything was going so fast, and I really enjoyed working with the people, my team leaders, my supervisors. After I was approached, I had to start traveling. She offered me the opportunity to work with these two groups, and I had to travel to Raleigh, like I said, to meet with the groups. One group dealt with diversity on the job, and it was myself and maybe I'll say about 7 or 8 other people from different ethnicities. A few months went by, and the groups were meeting more frequently, and that meant that I had to be in Raleigh more often. And that was not a problem because I enjoyed the travel from Rocky Mount. It was, not a problem for me to travel back and forth. Once I was back and forth to Raleigh, I had to make sure I made contact with my supervisors in order to keep track of my time and the days that I had to report. I had to make sure that I documented via email every morning. What I did was I sent an email every morning when I had to report to Raleigh to the Rocky Mount office, and vice versa. Later on, the situation was I was approached by my manager. She pulled me into the office. This is the same manager who offered these positions, these special projects is what they were called. She offered me these special projects. I was approached by her and called into her office, and this would be the bad. I just talked about the good. Everything was good. I was able to travel to Raleigh back and forth. I was, on these 3 special projects, which was being the newsletter editor for our group, being with this diversity group, and also doing something actually very new to me, which was testing these new tax forms that rolled out every year. That was the good. The bad was the day that my manager approached me, and she said to me, "I need to talk to you." So she calls me into her office, and she has the quality assurance supervisor in there with her. So I walked in the office, I sat down as professional as I always do, and my manager tells me that she has gotten some reports that I had not been reporting to work. I had not been doing the work that I was supposed to do. I was on the computer doing things that I should not do. And she also said that there has not been any documentation. Well, I was immediately offended because I've always kept a log of all of my work. I kept a log of emails back every morning when I reported to work. I had the parking tickets where I had to turn in an expense report at the end of every month. So I sat and I listened to her, and she told me all these things, and basically they were allegations. Of course, somebody bringing that type of situation to you when you know that these allegations are not true. The first thing I did was, after she, gave me all the information, she asked me, did I have anything to say? And I said, yes. I said, I find it very ironic or very hard to believe that these allegations came about, because the supervisor that I was with almost every day of the week never approached me, never said anything to me about my poor work or not reporting the work, not being on the computer, doing other things on the computer and not my work, and also not, reporting where I was supposed to be. Never got a warning. I advised my manager that protocol and policy states that you get a verbal warning, you then get a written warning, and you get a warning that goes in your permanent file. I had not received any of those. As a matter of fact, I had not even been approached to say, Sandra, they didn't even pull me to the side to say, you are not doing what you're supposed to be doing. What's the problem? Is there anything wrong? Most managers in a position like that, before they want to even give you a verbal warning, they're going to approach you and say to you, is anything wrong? Is everything going all right at home? Things like that. I was not asked any of these questions because there was nothing going on. I knew I was doing what I was supposed to do and what was asked of me. After that time, I let my manager know that I was very offended, and that I would, from that day on, I would definitely continue to come to work and continue to be as professional as I had always been, because I have two small children at home that I need to feed, and this is not the time to be getting irate and upset and letting something like this bother me when I know it's not true. I left the office, I went back to my seat, and from that day on, I continued to do the job that I was hired to do as a processing assistant. A few weeks after that, I pulled down some documents of emails, my reports of where I had signed in Raleigh and in Rocky Mount, my expense reports, and all the documentation that I had to prove that these allegations were not true. I approached my manager to let her know that I had these documents. She immediately dismissed me and said that she did not have time to look at them, that she would look at them later. Well, later never came. I emailed the supervisor in Raleigh to ask her what happened and why did these allegations come about, and I was not even notified or anything. I did not get a response. I did not get a phone call back. I called, I emailed, I never got a response back. So at this point I knew that these allegations were not true, because nobody wanted to see my documentation. Everybody was taking the time to just act like none of this had ever happened. So, how to avoid a situation like this? Always keep documentation. Always keep documentation. But even when you keep documentation, it does not matter what job you are on, somebody is going to be jealous and start making up things about you. But what you have to do, learning from this, what this taught me was to continue to stay professional, not to let anyone bring me out of my character, not let anyone bring me out of my element, because I've always been professional. I've always treated everyone the same, and I will always continue to make sure I have email, any kind of paper, any kind of phone calls, journals, anything that you have that you can document. Please document, because as long as you have documentation, no one can take that away from you. And that was a transition in my life because from that job, a month later, I was offered the position that I have right now, which is the legislative as a legislative assistant in the House of Representatives for Representative Alma Adams, who is the most powerful African American woman in the state of North Carolina. I love my job. I wouldn't take it for anything in the world. I received a $6,000 pay raise, leaving the revenue to go to the General Assembly. A year later, I received a $3,000 raise. I do believe that I made the right decision of leaving that position at the revenue, because at that point it was a damaged situation. And what I mean by that is, it was almost like they were out to get me. They were going to continue until they wanted me to break down. They wanted me to quit. They wanted me to do whatever. I did not quit. I resigned because of a better position. The only thing I have to say about that is it was a better transition for me because I was able to better take care of my children. And I'm glad that I made that decision. Thank you for your time.